São Paulo Fashion Week. But where and how is São Paulo?
Welcome to the largest city in South America, the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. São Paulo is home to more than 10 million people, many of whom are descendants of the European migrants who began arriving in the late 19th century. Today, Sampa, as the locals call it, remains the most ethnically diverse city in Brazil. São Paulo is Brazil's financial capital, the engine room of the country's burgeoning economy, which is now the 6th largest in the world. The country's stock exchange is here, and so too are many of Brazil's cash-rich middle class. As hard as they toil, they can't work 24/7. Come the weekend, if they're not at the football supporting one of the city's 3 top-flight clubs, the Paulistanos can often be found at Ibirapuera Park. The green oasis in this concrete jungle is one of the largest city parks in Latin America. That daily routine can often involve a traffic jam or two. Congestion is commonplace, as are the skyscrapers, good restaurants, impressive landmarks, and helicopters. We couldn't find one, but the city allegedly boasts the largest fleet of helicopters anywhere in the world. At least 10 different teams will contest the 6 matches in Sampa during the 2014 World Cup, and the many thousands of visitors to the city are unlikely to be short of things to see and do. But don't just take our word for it.
São Paulo has many good things to offer. Anything you might ever need can easily be found within 100 meters. Absolutely anything. It could be a restaurant, a cinema, a shopping center, anything. Whatever you need, it's almost certain you can find it within 400 square meters here in São Paulo.
São Paulo Fashion Week was established in 1996 under the name of Morumbi Fashion Brazil. It's the most important fashion event in Latin America and the world's 50th largest event after Paris, Milan, London, and New York. São Paulo Fashion Week is held twice a year in São Paulo in the Bienal building, which was designed by a very famous architect in Brazil, Oscar Niemeyer. São Paulo Fashion Week attracts international attention and driving thousands of people to this event. An industry that brings together 30,000 companies, annual turnover of $63 billion and employs 1.7 million Brazilians. Paulo Borges is the creative director of São Paulo Fashion Week and owner of Luminosidade, agents that makes the event. He's also director of Fashion Rio, event that happened 1 week before the São Paulo Fashion Week.
Differently from other countries, the Fashion Week in Brazil has a unique feature in which each year brings a theme. Around the building of event happening exhibition of art, entertainment, culture, and discussion on the theme covered. It is not only a fashion week but also a design, creativity, sustainability, and culture. São Paulo Fashion attracts over 100,000 guests for its 29th fashion show where more than 300 models walked on its catwalks. The number of staffs involved in producing the event is almost 11,500 people, among professional buyers, journalists, and sponsors. The event generates over $250 million of spontaneous media.
The economic significance of doing big events impacts positively on tourism and the city economy itself. So when it attracts a tourist of this segment, all the other sectors, direct or indirectly, end up being favored, such as landing facilities, land and air transportation, bars and restaurants, consumer retail, service, and others. To get one idea, average 12% of the public who visit São Paulo Fashion Week are tourists, who stayed around 5 days in the city and had an average of spending $1,000 during the period, including expenses for lodging, leisure, transport, and food. Moving more than $14 million in the city only with tourism, on top of the business generated, which amounts more than $750 million, according with the organizers. Half of the brands participating in the event says that achieve a turnover of more than 30% with the São Paulo Fashion Week. The other 50% records heights of up to 10%. The Fashion Week is the busiest period of textile chain, third industry that most employs in the country, and has revenues of around $38 billion, generating a total of 1.7 million direct jobs. The fashion industry involves much more than producing and marketing of clothes and accessories, involving all mass media, advertising agencies, modeling agencies, and many other different companies.
This year there was a change in the calendar of the event. First held in January Fall-Winter Collection and June Summer Collection. This year edition of 2030 was brought forward to March. The change messed up to some designer who had to speed up the work to produce their piece in time for the show. The change was already being taught by Paulo Borges for some time. The decisive push was the scheduling conflict of Brazil in the coming year will host important sporting events like the Confederation Cup, the World Cup and the Olympic, all in mid-June and July, dates that coincide with the Fashion Week. According to the creator, the period is an adaptation, but soon this change in fashion business in Brazil will be a benefit for the designer and confection, may have better planning, better produce, can develop with the correct planning, and also because now the São Paulo Fashion Week comes shortly after important fashion week around the world. Then Brazil can have more focus to the domestic fashion and improvement in the economic that generates resource for the city. Let's talk about one of the most prominent fashion designer in São Paulo Fashion Week, Ronaldo Lawrence. Every season, the Brazilian fashion designer is gaining more space in the international market. The culture, originality, the unity of material, and his rebuilding of vintage form the basis of his futuristic concept that mix the past and the future. The collection of Ronaldo Lawrence are always a highlight in the São Paulo Fashion Week. Ronaldo is constant reference in matter of fashion and publishing in the journals, magazines and sites more appraised in Brazil and in the world. The ability of innovation and transformation to each collection is amazing. Pedro Lawrence, his son, presented his collection in Paris Fashion Week 2010 when he was 19 years old and now turned to an important fashion designer for Brazil and the world.
Every year, São Paulo Fashion Week gets more importance not only for Brazilians, but also for the whole international fashion market. The event makes the media and international investors to turn to the country. A range of factors have caused the world to turn to the Brazilian market as a whole. And the fashion market, which involves producing textile, clothing manufacturers, retailers, fashion producers, makeup artists, among others, has been booming. São Paulo Fashion Week is the dissemination of Brazilian culture to the fashion culture, employees generation, and appreciation of Brazilian design abroad.
There was a change in last 7 years relates to the political and economic that changed Brazil and the interest that the world has for the country. Today, the world has a great interest in Brazil. The world is in Brazil. Brazilian culture is internationally recognized and admired for expressing value and behavior of the population. If we think in terms of São Paulo, perhaps is a place where the world are looking for. São Paulo is a very globalized, not only fashion, but technology, economics, music, motorsport and design. That makes Brazil a globalized country. The interest today in Brazil fashion has another meaning, a sense of business and economic. Brazilian fashion is a cultural, economic field that has a large development since the 1970s. Was the last growth if we considered what happened in Europe. However, as a country interbred, multicultural and creative, Brazil has been increasingly recognized as a fashion hub as well as a big consumer.
A gente sempre acreditou que moda nunca foi roupa. Roupa é um processo da moda, né? É uma etapa do que a moda compreende. Construir uma cultura de moda é olhar o que significa a criação, a inspiração, a produção, a inovação, a tecnologia. São poucas as áreas criativas que podem brincar com todas essas informações, com todas essas inspirações. E o mais incrível ainda, além disso, é que a moda faz isso 2 vezes por ano. Ela faz, inventa, diz, morre, renasce, ressurge, falando tudo de novo de outra forma.